If we have the courage of our convictions, and I believe we do, then we will and we must stand against this disastrous policy. Regardless of the president's personal popularity, this is not a game. This is not a popularity contest. This is not American Idol. This is serious. Families are hurting. Businesses are closing. Wealth is being diminished. Opportunities lost. And this should not be the future of our country. But it is the reality of this moment. The guy who campaigned in favor of bottom-up style of governing is presiding over the most massive top-down expansion of government bureaucracy and spending our country has seen. The candidate who campaigned as a moderate in his views, now as president, is governing farther left than we could ever imagine. And let's not be mistaken here, folks. I know a left turn when I see one. And this is a left turn, no matter how they dress it up. No matter how they dress it up. Candidate Obama talked about fiscal responsibility, about government living within its means, but President Obama is saddling our unborn grandchildren with mountains of debt. Candidate Obama boasted about cutting taxes, but President Obama, trust me, will have to raise taxes to pay for his massive top-down government explosion. Let's not have that lie stay out there any longer. 95% of the people will not get a tax cut. Candidate Obama was all about being bipartisan. Oh, this is a good one. But President Obama could not be more partisan, yielding his legislative agenda almost entirely to radicals like Nancy Pelosi. So what's the loyal opposition to do with this popular president? Well, we're going to speak truth to power. We're going to speak directly, and we are going to take them on, every last one of them, on every street corner and in every neighborhood. This is not about personalities. This is about the very sizable gap emerging between America's opinion of the president, the man, and America's opinion of the president's policies. In fact, it is not a gap, it is a chasm. In the end, we are all about ideals, principles, policies, and ideas. We have only one goal, and it's not power. It's not majorities. It's the success of our country. So, the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon is over. We're going to challenge those policies that we believe are wrong. And we're going to do so without apology and without a second thought. But there's a very important distinction I want to make here. We're going to take this president on with class. We're going to take this president on with dignity. This will be a very sharp and I think marked contrast to the shabby and classless way that the Democrats and the far left spoke of and treated President Bush over the last 8 years. Now, we've just been witness to a bunch of news stories on the president's first 100 days in office. Predictably, most in the media were fawning all over the president. But I wouldn't break ground on the mall for a monument just yet, as his policies are increasingly unpopular with the American people. The American people aren't worried about polls. The American people are worried about jobs, foreclosures, bailouts, taxes, spending, and debt. While the Obama administration is giving the banks a stress test, they are also giving the American people a tremendous amount of stress. Now let's look at the first 100 days of President Obama's reign of error in a factual manner, not in terms of his speeches, but in terms of his actions. Because as all of us Republicans appreciate, you can say whatever you want. It's what you do that matters. Under President Obama, the federal government is now in the banking business. Under President Obama, the government now makes cars. Under President Obama, our country has amassed debts that will take generations to repay. Under President Obama, America is increasingly in debt to foreign countries, from China to the Middle East. President Obama now wants to cap and tax every single American into paying higher utility taxes. President Obama and his allies in Congress have now put their taxing eyes on soft drinks. President Obama and Democrat leaders want a brand new tax on our health care benefits and are devising a plan to give federal government bureaucrats control over our health care system. President Obama is backing a plan to take away the basic right of every American worker to cast a private ballot. President Obama has, for the first time in our history, politicized the U.S. Census process by putting political appointees in his White House in charge and wanting a corrupt, fraudulent organization to run it. President Obama and his far-left allies are flirting with an attempt to squelch the basic freedom of speech on our nation's airwaves. President Obama's Attorney General is trying to use Mexican drug gang wars as a reason to advocate a new gun ban in America. President Obama's administration has disparaged our war heroes and veterans by suggesting that they are a threat to our safety, when the truth is they are the cause for our safety. The president who thinks that everybody should be able to go to college is cutting much-needed funding for historically black colleges and universities, which Republican presidents have funded at unprecedented levels in the past. The president who pledged that he would create millions of jobs through federal public works projects now requires project labor agreements on such projects, which effectively denies small and minority-owned businesses access to those very jobs they claim they want to create. And the one that galls me the most because it cuts the closest. While the president sends his kids to a private school, he is at the very same time taking away opportunity scholarships from poor Hispanic and African American kids right here in our nation's capital, the majority of whom go to my former high school. Those are the facts of the president's first 100 days. Speaking truth to power. The last Democrat president who declared that the era of big government was over was Bill Clinton. Someone should send that memo to Barack Obama. Because this new Democrat president has ushered in a new era of left-wing, old-school, top-down, industrial-age, bureaucratic big government, the likes of which we've never seen. It is all designed for short-term political payoff, with potentially catastrophic long-term effects on our nation's economy and our own personal prosperity. Our nation's unemployment rate has climbed to a 25-year high. The gross domestic product, the best indicator of our economic health, was down 6.1% in the last quarter. 2.5 million Americans have lost their job this year alone. And just last month, when 530,000 Americans lost their jobs, this administration tried to spin this as progress. Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and President Obama are planning an America where there are more people moving down the ladder of opportunity than up. They're planning for an America that is more dependent, less industrious, and less ambitious than our nation's ideals. This is not the kind of America Republicans envision, nor is this the kind of America we will allow this administration to build. As the next 100 days of this administration unfolds, the President and the Democrat Party would be wise to remember these timeless truths. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot help the wage earner by pulling down the wage payer. You cannot further the brotherhood of man by encouraging class hatred. You cannot establish security by borrowing money. You cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot build character and courage by taking away one's initiative and incentive. You cannot help individuals permanently by doing for them what they should do for themselves. The honeymoon is over, and it's time for us to speak truth to power.